Before sunrise on May 29, 1453, Constantinople stood as if it could never fall. Its mighty walls and golden domes had survived centuries of war, convincing many that the city was invincible. Yet beyond those walls, an army was preparing to rewrite the course of history. Within a matter of hours, an empire that had endured for over 1,000 years would reach its final chapter. Beyond the city's walls, there was no confusion, only absolute purpose. Inside the war council, every detail of the campaign had already been planned. The commanders understood that victory would depend not only on strength, but on patience, discipline, and flawless execution. At that moment, Constantinople became more than a city on a map. It became the center of history itself. The walls of Constantinople were far more than layers of stone. They were a symbol of endurance. For centuries, armies had stood before them and failed. Many believed the city was simply impossible to conquer. Yet history has shown time and again that even the strongest fortresses can fall when fronted. The greatest advantage was not the size of the army, it was the technology standing behind it. Master engineers surrounded enormous bronze bombards built to challenge walls that had resisted invasions for centuries. No one could yet predict how these machines would influence the siege, but everyone understood that warfare itself was entering a new era. Sometimes history is shaped not by the sword, but by a breakthrough no one saw coming. Inside the city, life continued as though nothing had changed. Craftsmen opened their workshops, merchants prepared their goods, and children filled the streets with energy. Beyond the walls, however, preparations were reaching their final stage. History often hides its greatest turning points behind the calm of an ordinary morning. As the sun rose, Constantinople no longer faced an army at its gates. It found itself surrounded by a carefully organized siege designed with patience and precision. The objective was not a reckless assault, but the gradual isolation of one of the world's greatest cities. From this moment forward, strategy, not raw strength, would determine the course of history. Inside the city, decisions were made with the calm expected of a capital that had survived centuries of hardship. No one underestimated the challenge ahead, yet every commander understood the responsibility they shared. Behind closed doors, plans were refined, positions assigned, and preparations completed for the days to come. The question was no longer whether the siege would begin, but how long the city could endure. This was more than a machine of bronze. It represented years of engineering and innovation. It had been built to confront a challenge that generations of armies had failed to overcome. Its true strength lay not only in power, but in precision, patience, and careful planning. Sometimes history begins to change inside the mind of an engineer. The city's defenses extended far beyond its walls. Across the entrance to the Golden Horn stretched a massive iron chain, protecting the harbor from direct naval access. For generations, it had been regarded as one of the greatest defensive systems of its time. But history often asks a simple question. What happens when one innovation meets another? The Golden Horn appeared completely secure, protected by a massive iron chain that made direct entry nearly impossible. Most believed the siege would continue in the traditional way, with the fleet kept outside the harbor. But history remembers leaders who refused to accept the obvious path. In that quiet moment, an idea began to take shape, one that would become one of the most remarkable military strategies